On December 16th of 2003, after years of deliberation, U.S. Congress finally passed legislation to control spam. But that same year, software solutions had already begun to make those controls completely unnecessary. In fact, most of your spam right now is controlled by the company itself. They know who you deal with, they know who you relate with, and now I get less spam in my email than I get in real mailbox. Right, so I just got lots of mail this week, especially for voting, right? But few people realize how big a watershed moment this is. You know, you go online, you look at sort of regulation by reputation, regulation by algorithm. You're not going to find much, but we're in the middle of this, okay? And we've launched a new era where coded social networks based off algorithms are revolutionizing the way the world cooperates. And so we see this every day, right? We make hundreds of thousands of transactions with eBay, Amazon, where if you have a problem and you complain to them and they have a reputation, oh, hey, what do you need? You need a new one? Send it right back. Yeah, get back to you right away, right? They're very quick on eBay and Amazon. But lately, this has taken, since 2009, we've seen it really go to another level. Airbnb, which I run, perfect strangers walk into my house, stay in an unlocked door and sleep at night. Do I look like the type of guy you want to sleep next to? Right? You get out of an airport. Women, men, any age will get inside a car, an Uber. This is not controlled. You don't have the policeman sitting in the car. You don't have the policeman sitting at the front door. This is regulation by reputation. So we scroll down. My memory's horrible. All right. So this isn't Congress regulating this. This is not Congress giving the stamp of approval. Software has created the guide. Software that's improving every year. So you get less spam every year. You get more security every year. And what's interesting is some of them are now combining them. So I sent this violinist who was coming to my house. She didn't know who I was. And I sent her my Airbnb, my Facebook, and something else. She's like, oh, that's great. Come right over, right? So as such, the biggest elephant in the room when you look at controlling carbon, the one that people really are afraid of, is Congress, right? Congress may or may not do something. But every national proposal, internationally proposed, means we have to go through Congress. We have to wait for Senate. What if we could set up a system that relies on regulation? Okay, Congress makes a cap and trade. Do they actually give carbon to individual companies? You can now trade this carbon. They deed it, just like you have a deed for your house. A little piece of paper that says you own this. Okay, you own this carbon, you can trade it. So our idea is to use a reputation. I didn't even get my slide, did I? They said I could only have one image.
Well, that's the slide we have for you.
All right, well, it was a really beautiful slide. Maybe I can bring it up here.
Oh, maybe this one.
Do I get an extra 10? Oh, there we go.
Oh,
this is
yeah.
great. All right. All right, now I think you can actually close this for a second. You were supposed to be watching it. So here's this new style of regulation, right? And here's old man Congress carrying his Barnes & Noble bag, right? He's, you know, I'm not saying that we're going to replace Congress, but we are taking in a lion's share of things that regulation used to take care of, right? And then people have talked about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin for me isn't a currency at all. It's actually a public ledger. And I speak internationally about Bitcoin. It's something I study. I went to graduate school here at MIT, worked for NASA. I love technology. The thing Bitcoin does that it's done flawlessly, without volatility for 5 years, is accounting. Public accounting. It's called a public ledger. Okay, so there's been no volatility inside of Bitcoin. If you have one Bitcoin today, you have one Bitcoin tomorrow. You can use this for share-based systems. Okay, so we can install a carbon share-based system where we actually open a site tomorrow, the cost of an SUV, launch an international global cap and trade, where every person who signs on immediately gets 5 shares. 10 shares, whatever it is, but equal shares. So I know when you were dealing with fairness and all the things, you know, it's like, Kyoto, how do we deal with fairness? Well, fairness is pretty, it's a big issue. It's a big issue you guys deal with. If we can give equal shares to every person on Earth, we have an arguably fair system. These shares can then be traded to companies. Clearly, at the beginning, price is zero. Whole Foods might come in and say, wow, we want to support your system. Start buying some shares. Hopefully, we get true price discovery. If you get true price discovery, you get a real price on carbon. Okay? One more minute. Wow. All right, here we go. This is as simple, really, as it needs to. I mean, this is complex as it needs to be, right? You get your share, boop, you get a little message. Whole Foods is interested in leasing your share for a few months. Do you want it or not? They give you a price, you say no, yes. There'll be a market of people, and you can see it because Bitcoin's a global public ledger. The one thing you can do that you've never done with any currency in your life is you can see every transaction that ever happened today, every second as it's coming. Then you have the rating system built right in, all runs autonomously. The social network cap and trade, no government required. I launch it, I don't even make a penny off of it. So this little marriage is kind of the future. These are two 2009 technologies. Well, 2009 is a little bit older, but we see the new regulation by repetition.
Well, I'll take I'm not sure what to say. Other than thank God we have a solution. We don't need Eric anymore. We stop wasting your time on the internet. We got the private solution here. Yes, so, we certainly have these, voluntary credit markets that are already existing, whether they're using that technology or something. I know the Chicago Exchange started these voluntary credits. So there is a certain, there is enough, there are some people who will voluntarily buy these credits, and not that many. So
use the microphone.
There are some people who will buy these voluntary credits, not that many. So can you really expect this to solve the problem if the purchase of credits is just on a voluntary basis?
Yeah.
I have to say, I love this idea. I thought this was great, and the more you can put the negotiators and Congress out of this, especially now.
Yes!
The better the solution is. I think this appeals to millennials, and it appeals to taking responsibility. I think my only question is, what if adoption is? I think it's John's question. What if adoption is less than you think? Are you planning on getting? How are you going to regulate the ledger? Where's the ledger going to sit? I think Bitcoin works because the people who use it trust it enough to use it, and the people who don't are too scared, and that's what's preventing Bitcoin's growth. So who's going to foster trust in this?
Other comments and questions or suggestions? So please come up.
You must know.
I guess I'm not.
Here, the microphone.
To hold the.
So I guess I'm not completely sure about how the logistics work. So anybody who signs up gets a certain amount of shares, and you can lease those shares to companies. Now, is the idea that you lease those shares to companies that are being responsible about their carbon emissions, or and then what do the companies get out of it?
I have one in the
Please.
same vein. I mean, when you talk about the reputation, whose reputation? I mean, it's not the individual's reputation. I presume that there's some sort of a, climate change Yelp somewhere equivalent where ExxonMobil maybe has a lower number of stars than Whole Foods. But if you could say a little bit more about that, that would be helpful.
Please.
And the name Sno-Caps, I was wondering why it was called Sno-Caps.
Thank you.
I love Sno-Caps.
Okay, let's give you a chance to respond.
Well, I'll start with yours first. Ladies first, guys. Sno-Caps, just because I was able to get sno-caps.org. There's hardly they're on there right now. But I wanted the ice caps to stay snowy, right? So, something there. And this is cap in the train. All right.
It's a stretch, but it's okay.
I know, but try to find a name that's short that you can actually get a website for. So they all hit kind of at this really important question. I think it is the essential question, which is why would people adopt? Who's going to get involved? Why would you get involved, right? Well, think about the marketing. Think about, let's just take one company, for example, a Whole Foods or someone who wants to compete with Whole Foods. You walk in today and you see lots of little envelopes. We bought this coffee in Kenya. We have that little seal to show you. What if you could actually show that you actually did something on a public ledger where everyone can believe you, right? When I walk into Whole Foods, they tell me they bought that in Kenya. I'm like, eh. So there's an advertising element for them, right? This public ledger, which runs continuously. And you said, who's going to control it? Well, Bitcoin's decentralized. There's 100,000 different computers, each with the ledger. Any mistake on any of those computers, that computer gets kicked off. So it's really beautifully done where it's run by everybody. And any mistake is kicked out. So that's why it works decentralized. So Whole Foods has a real incentive now, or a real feedback loop that they can do. They can actually show you for the first time they're environmental. We've bought these shares. You can see them right here on the market. Whole Foods doesn't want to do it. How many people really want to buy shares? No one. But the advertising ability, if you're competing with Whole Foods, you can suddenly show proof that you did something environmental. Right? It's really, really hard. It's actually this real dilemma for companies to try and show these things. So Whole Foods may come in early and say, okay, we'll give 2 cents a share. It's not much, but you suddenly have a price point. Now you have incentives for users to come on and start joining the system. Now, you might not need 2 cents, but someone else might need 2 cents, or someone else might just want to be involved in the system. So this is how these things begin. Bitcoin didn't start with a price. It had no price, right? The US dollar had a really funny beginning of real volatility. Oil had massive volatility at the beginning. The beginning of anything is ugly, terrible, high possibility of failure. But again, we can launch this cap and trade internationally tomorrow for the price of an SUV. Let's
have a round of applause.